Hi, my name is Colin Overweg, and I am one of the community leaders for the Michigan FPA Next Gen program. The goal of this community is to make friends and help you become a better financial advisor. In this episode, we had the pleasure of meeting with financial advisor, entrepreneur, speaker, and brand enthusiast Justin Castelli. Justin has been a personal mentor of mine for the last 6 years since I started my own RIA practice. And in today's conversation, we're going to talk about how he got started, why he started his own firm, and ultimately why he became a registered life planner through the Kinder Institute to help his clients align their spirit, mind, body, and money. So make sure to tune in to hear about Justin's stories and some of the do's and don'ts that he has learned along the way. And if you'd like to join conversations like this, be sure to join our community. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or any social media, and we'll get you information on how to join. Justin, this is a fun group where, as you just heard a story, someone just transitioned from broker-dealer world and made that scary leap into the RIA world. And I want to kind of just build on that even within your own story, just to hear another perspective, another view of where you started and what maybe gave you the itch and the scratch to want to go off on your own. And maybe that story will inspire some others to, maybe look inward. And that will be a really nice pivot to maybe where you ended up today, because I absolutely want to get into the evolution of your story and your entrepreneurial journey. So thanks again for joining us, Justin, and maybe take us through a little journey.
Yeah, I came in right as Sebastian was talking about being at an insurance firm and going through all that. And I didn't get goosebumps, but it sent me back 20 years ago when I was first getting started. So I'll try to keep my story short, but I do think the trajectory of my career is something that a lot of financial advisors go through. And you've probably had a bunch of guests, and depending on how long they've been in the business, you'll notice that very few of us end up where we started out. And you do get into this profession not knowing what you don't know. Even if you go, I saw some Michigan State folks, even if you go to Michigan State and go through the program there, you still don't know everything that you can know about the profession. So I went to a small school in Indiana. I played basketball there, graduated not knowing what I was going to do. I was going to go to law school, and I met my now wife and realized I didn't want to go to school for 3 more years. So I started networking with some business people that my dad knew, and I stumbled into this career of financial planning. I had one finance class in college, and I got a C in it. Like, I had no interest in it. So I never would have thought this would be the path, but this is exactly where I was supposed to end up. So in the midst of figuring everything out, I just started dropping resumes off, paper resumes, going to the offices, dropping it off, and ended up starting out at an insurance-based firm, and quickly realized that, one, I didn't want to cold call, not in my DNA. I didn't want to sell my friends and family. We would have call nights on Monday nights. They'd order pizza. We're supposed to make some dials. I would go into the conference room and I would call my friends and just shoot the breeze with them. So I was on the phone, but I wasn't bothering anybody. So I was there for a year, and then I went to a bank. In that time I was there, I got engaged. We started building our first house, so I needed some more stability. I went to the bank, actually was a personal banker with the goal of going into the financial advisor program. And I hated being in a branch. I hated being next door to my manager with the glass wall between us. And I hated trying to get people to upsell them. So I was there for a year. We got married, get back from the honeymoon. And then I went to go work at a 403(b) company. And that is where I fell in love with the profession. And that is where I became a financial advisor. So the name of the company was Valak. It's changed names since then. But basically, I had 9 school corporations that our company had their 403(b) match and a lot of buyout money that some teachers in Indiana got. So every teacher in my school corporation had an account with me. They could choose where to send their voluntary money, but they had an account with me. So everybody had a reason to at least meet with me. And all I would do is go to the schools. I'd sit in the teacher's lounge and I would offer reviews and just answer questions. And then I would see who was interested in doing more financial planning. I wouldn't want to be at Valak forever, but for that period of my career, it was great because they had a financial planning tool. They gave me freedom to build my own schedule and work the way I wanted to. They paid for me to get my CFP designation. So I learned a lot, but I had to learn it all on my own because there was no mentorship. And very few of the people I worked with were approaching it the way that I was. The aha moment I had where I knew I was going to go and leave that world to go to the independent space was 2008 when AIG took a big bailout from the government, and AIG owned Valak at the time. So while I did nothing wrong, and none of my clients that I worked with closely were bothered by it, I caught a lot of flack for working for a company that got a bailout from the government. They should have just let us fail. And I didn't bother me at the time, but the connection I made was I never want to be in a position where somebody else's bad decisions impact my reputation or my business. So I already wasn't loving having managers and having goals and being told what products to use. I did my best to offer my clients what was best for them within the parameters that I had, but I was still restricted. So I was already thinking independence, but that is what really set me in that direction. So I planned for it. I saved money. I had an informal survey with clients to see how many of my clients viewed me as their advisor, aka, would you follow me if I went somewhere else? And when I felt like I had enough people that I could navigate my non-compete without getting in trouble and enough money saved, that I was ready to go. And that was going to be in the spring. The fall before that spring, I meet a woman in town who's looking for a succession plan, and I deviated from my plan. And looking back, I knew I shouldn't have done it, but in the moment, the carrot was dangled in front of me of inheriting a book of business that's doing over $1 million in revenue, a woman very connected in the city. It was a great story, and I made myself see this potential. And after 2 years, I decided that wasn't it. I was technically fired, if you want to look at it that way, but it was a mutual decision for me to go leave and start my own company. And at that time, I was already planning it because I knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be. But I'm glad in hindsight that that happened because I don't do confrontation. And she made it easier for me to go start my own company because I didn't have to go approach her about leaving. So there was like a oh crap moment. And then it was a moment of excitement. And I went and set up my LLC, started the registration, called all my clients that had followed me there, told them what was going on. And in July of 2015, my firm was approved by Indiana, and I was off to the races. And I'll give you a little bit of insight. When I started the firm, and one of the reasons I wanted to go on my own was I wanted to work with people that were my age. I had retirees from the 403B company, and I enjoyed doing that, but I was frustrated that I was telling young people that I knew were going to be successful, I couldn't help them. So I launched my firm with a subscription model for young professionals and the traditional AUM model for my retirees. And the plan was you come in on the subscription, we work with you, you grow, you graduate to the wealth management side, and we shift over to AUM. And now I talked about this barbell approach where I could help everybody, where I could help both sides of the equation. I'll pause there for a moment because that's just the beginning of a second version of myself. Because when I started the firm, that's when I really became an entrepreneur. And then I got into the content marketing game and creating content, and that opened up something brand new. But I'll pause here for a second on the beginning of the story.
Any questions so far? Feel free to take yourself off mic or ask a question in the comment section. The first thought I thought that was pretty interesting is that you deviated from your plan, which you've probably reflected on quite a bit when you tried partnering with the already successful woman in practice, doing a succession plan. And that probably wasn't what you really wanted. Maybe you saw dollar signs. Maybe you thought, "Hey, this is going to like really fuel my journey here." I just think it's interesting that you kind of deviated from your internal plan, and well, it usually doesn't work out when we deviate from what our internal self is telling us.
I know that a lot better now as I've gotten older and more experiences and being better connected to my like internal guidance. But I will say that like, yes, there was a little bit of a money motivation, not in the short term. So when I took that step from 403B to go work for her, I'm going to be fully transparent with all of you. I took a $200,000 cut in pay for
Wow.
this long-term potential. Now, mind you, I had saved money. So my plan was I saved money for a year of living expenses to not touch our emergency fund so my family wouldn't notice a change in lifestyle to launch my firm. So thankfully I had that money, but I went to a very, very low salary that I had no control over with the long-term thought of, okay, I'll 2 steps backwards to take 5 steps forward because when I take over this firm, then that's when the payoff will be. And I was willing to do that. By the end of the second year, when I went to go launch my firm, I didn't have very much money or savings left. So I actually took a $10,000 principal distribution from my Roth IRA to help start my firm. So that was a kind of a cool experience. But so there was a little bit of the monetary side. But one of the reasons I I took that position was going back to the fact that I never had a true mentor in the profession. I'd never had anybody teach me how to be a financial advisor. I had to read and figure things out on my own. And here's somebody who's been in the business for 20 years, 25 years, and built a real good business. So I felt like I could learn from her, and that was worth it. That was a big part of it as well. And the game plan was she was going to retire. I would step into her shoes. There was another CFP that did most of the planning. And I learned a lot in those 2 years there. I learned income planning because at that time, none of my clients had retired and most of her clients were retired. So I learned a little bit of the art form of how do you move money around and generate income. But I also learned how I didn't want to operate as a business owner and how I didn't want to be as a financial advisor. And that's nothing negative on her. It's just her way was not my way. An example of that would be just a view on life. So not even business. When I was there, we had two of our boys, and I remember her telling me, now is the time where you need to sacrifice and work hard and work overtime, because when your boys are older, their problems are going to be bigger and they're going to need more of you at that time, which I don't disagree. I understood that. But my thought was, why can't it be both? Why can't I be here now and do all of the things with them while they're young? Because I'm never going to get that time back. And why can't I still be there when they're older? Like, why does there have to be a sacrifice? So that disconnect was kind of like one of those things where I was like, yeah, that's not the way I want to operate. And if I ever grow a team, I don't want to be that way with my team.
You've never done a good job of fitting in the box. And we'll be able to explore more on that. Stephen, you have a question. Feel free to take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you, Justin, for being here tonight. So my question is, so I've had a fair amount of conversations with different wealth management firms of different calibers, and I've grown a strong liking towards this independent RIA style. And I hear a lot of the stories, like similar stories that you guys talk about, where you're selling an insurance product and you want to get out of there, and then you do, and it's a great success story. But something that like weirdly worries me, that like I really want to start my own firm, and that seems like I'm really excited about that. And I'm just a junior in college, but I'm like, I'm very focused on this path, but I know an important part of being successful is like being ready to veer off that path at any point. So do you have like any thoughts on someone who knows or has a good idea that they do want to start their own RIA further down the line? And maybe how to avoid any pitfalls of like staying focused on that or being open to changing and what opportunities might come along through trying to start your own and network.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a big advocate. I want as many people to own their own businesses, whether it's advisor firms or not, as possible. But at the same time, I have matured enough to know that that's not the right answer for everybody. And I don't say that to say that it's not right for you. I say that for everybody else who feels like, well, I don't want to own my own firm. Is something wrong with me? No. We need advisors in all areas. We need advisors in the insurance firms. We need advisors in wirehouse. We need them in RIA. Like there's a lot of bickering amongst the advisor community. I don't know if you've seen this yet about what's the right way to work with clients, and I'm better than you because of the way I charge. All of that is BS. Because at the end of the day, it's really about how do you treat your clients? And there are going to be people who want to work with advisors in different models. So as long as you're treating clients the right way, putting them first and doing the best you can with what you have available at your firm, I think you're a good advisor. That being said, I would say going into it knowing that one day you want to own your own firm, I think it's very good early in your career to find somewhere to get the training, to get the licensing, and learn the business. Because what you think you might want to do as an advisor today when you actually get in there, you may realize that that may not be the way you want to operate. Maybe you don't want to go RA. Maybe you want to go to an independent broker dealer because you want to be able to make sure your clients get the term life insurance that they need. And rather than farm that out, you want to take care of it yourself. So that route may not be the way you want to go. And if you go broker dealer world, sometimes they have minimums and things that complicate it. So I would encourage you, keep that as your goal, keep that as your North Star, but then enter the profession early on with who can help me learn what I need to learn about the business, and who can I help their business grow. And maybe you find out that where you land is, a unicorn, and it's where you want to stay, and they provide everything that you want, and there's no reason for you to go out on your own. The reason I went out on my own was I didn't have anywhere else that I knew of where I could do the things that I wanted to do. The landscape has changed in the last 8 years. You've got firms that have different business models. They have different niches. Like, it's much easier today to find a firm that might align with who you are and how you want to operate. And then you have to look at, okay, well, was the real motivation to own my own firm because that's something that I really wanted to do, or because I didn't think I could do it, but I found this firm that allows me to do it for me? Because at the end of the day, when you look at the numbers, you will probably make about the same amount of money if you own the firm or you work at a firm that has a fair payout structure. Because when you own the firm, you own all the expenses as well. So those all eat into it. So I don't say to discourage you, but I would just come into the profession looking to learn and get as much experience as you can, and then be able to make your game plan of, okay, this is how I want to work. This is the work I do best. You might find out that you're a better planner than you are investment manager. So then how does that change the way your business is going to go? So always keep that North Star, but focus on getting experience, focus on getting training, focus on getting reps, being in the meetings, practicing. A lot of what we do is more about human interaction and being able to have communication skills, soft skills that they don't teach you. And you only really develop that by being in the room with other people and being able to help them. So that would be my little bit of advice.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Great question.
Great question. Great answer. Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I could turn on my micro right now. So hi, I'm great. So forgive me, I just have 10 minutes and I have meeting after that. I really like to connect with you guys. So I have 3 questions. So what is your suggestion or anything you wish or experience for people who in the beginning stage? I'm freshman, so I want to be like you, sometimes so that's really helpful for me. And the second question is how do you balance you are dad and you have a family and a carry, so that's really difficult to balance that, I know. So and the third is what's your biggest challenge for you in the journey for become today? So yeah, that's all.
All right, I can knock those out really quick so we don't lose you before you have to go. So what do I wish I would have known, or what would I tell somebody in the early stages? One of the first things I would encourage you to do, regardless if you stay in the profession or stay in the practice, wherever you go in life, and this is something I'm very big about right now, and I'm implementing it in my practice, spend time getting to know you. Because the more that you know about yourself, the better understanding you're going to have of where you might go in this profession. When I was younger and I was weaving around finding things out, I didn't really know who I was. I didn't know to know myself. And maybe this is something that you learn and understand as you get older. Like I'll be 42 next month. So there's this midlife crisis that everybody seems to hit at 40. It's not a coincidence that everybody goes through it at the age of 40, because you have enough life experience to reflect and be like, oh, well, I'm not happy. I want to make these changes. So if I can help you not wait till 40 to realize all the answers that you need for the path that you're going to take lie within you. You just need to be able to tap into those and figure it out. So on a bigger, more spiritual thing, I would encourage you to really know who you are, know what it is that you like, and don't compromise on the values that you hold dearest to you when you come into the profession. So that's kind of bigger picture. Going into the profession, I think that what I would stress to anybody thinking about it is the technical skills as a financial advisor are going to be overrated. What I mean by that is technology is going to do a lot of the technical stuff for us. So if you're hanging your hat on your allocations or on your tax planning or estate planning, those are all things you need to be knowledgeable in, but you better be the best of the best if that's what you're going to brag about, because there's technology now that will read a trust and will and give you all of the information in it to help you out. What will separate you from everybody else is the personal skills. And I'm a big advocate of a style of financial planning called life planning. George Kinder is the founder of it. You can look up the Kinder Institute. He's got books. But I went through the life planning process at the end of last year. I'm in the middle of it now, and it was life-changing for me. It's more about helping people figure out the life that they want to live, what's most important to them, and then bringing the finances to it. I think the softer side of money, the emotional, the behavior, helping people actually live the life that they want, as opposed to being a cog in the wheel if that's not the right thing for them. Those are the areas that are going to really separate financial advisors. And I just saw a study today that Samantha Russell, who's an amazing follow in the profession that does marketing and things for FMG, I think it is right now. It said there's a Fidelity study that young professionals don't want a financial advisor. They want a behavior therapist. They want a counselor. They want somebody who's going to help them. They don't want somebody as a financial advisor. I think that's going to be a continuation of where the younger generations are going to go. So focus on the soft skills, understand behavioral finance, understand how to communicate people, understand how to allow people the space to figure out what they want out of life, and don't put your wishes and your will on them, and then bring the finances to it. The final thing is, what was the challenge, right? My challenges. There was a thread I saw today about how tough it is to start a business. Starting a business is not easy. Coming into finance, whether you're starting your own or joining a firm where you have to grow your business, it's not easy. But I would never tell anybody that getting to where I had been has been hard. It hasn't been a straight line. It hasn't been necessarily easy, but I don't look back and ever see that it was hard. And I think that there's some wiring wrong in my head where I just don't look at negative things as negative, and I just keep on going. So my thing would be, coming into the profession, no matter where you go, you're going to have to work hard. It's not always going to go perfect. But if you come in expecting it to be hard, then it will be hard. If you come in expecting that you're going to have to work hard, but you're going to do something that you enjoy and you're going to help people's lives, then I think you will find a much smoother road, and it will be the exact same road that you would have been on if you thought it was going to be hard. It's just your perspective. Your mind and your thoughts control a lot of how you receive life. And if you can come into it knowing it's not going to be perfect, but that you're doing the thing that you love and you're going to help people, and that when those tough times comes, you just roll through it, it becomes a lot easier. So I don't really have a big challenge. I mean, I think the biggest challenge you'll hear is like how do you get clients? Like, that's not easy, but that's why sometimes you have to make stops along the way. If I had to cold call from day one, I probably would have fallen out of the business. I was able to get in a situation where I could passively grow my clients and then get to a point where I could leap on my own. So again, going back to knowing who you are, if you're a cold caller, then it may not matter where you go. But if you're not comfortable doing business that way, then maybe finding a place where you can inherit a book of business or have something like I had might be the right thing for you.
Okay, thank you for that. That's really helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we had another question here from Andrew. Andrew, do you want to hop off mute?
Yeah, sure. Excuse me. First of all, yeah, thanks again for being here, Justin. I wanted to explore your expectations and what you actually received in terms of the mentorship. What were your expectations? Did you, how do you feel those were met? What are there things you could have done better to get more out of it, or are there things your mentor could have done better to help advise you? And overall, was that part of it valuable, apart from how things ended in the end of the 2 years? So sorry, there's a part A through D there, but
you're good. No,
that's just going through my head.
I would not say that she did not see herself as a mentor. She saw herself as a boss. So there was never really a mentorship. I thought that I would get that, but I didn't. What I was hoping for was more of somebody who would show me the ropes and then allow me to kind of take over. Like my thought was, if you want to leave and retire in 5 years, then at some point you've got to pass the baton and let me start running the meetings. And one of the biggest frustrations I had was my title was something with investments, because at the time I really liked investments. I still do, but I've realized that's not big value. And I would talk, we'd be in a 2-hour meeting with clients. I would talk for 5 minutes and I would sit there. And it was boring and I didn't learn anything, because so much of our meetings when you have clients for a long time end up just being personal stuff. So they're talking about personal stuff that I know nothing about. There was no reason for me to be in there. I would have been better off coming in, doing my 10-minute spiel, and then leaving the office and going doing something else that was more beneficial. So I wasted a lot of time. So what I would have hoped for from a mentor was showing me some of the technical things and then allowing me to step in and do some of the work. And then afterwards, giving me some feedback. I mentioned I'm in the Kinder program right now, and they have a 6-month mentorship. So I did a week-long class. There's a 6-month mentorship. And it is a true mentorship. There's 10 of us in the mentorship program. There's 2 instructors, but I had to do a case study on a life plan for one of my clients. I wrote it out. And then today I actually went over that case study and feedback with one of the instructors. So to me, the mentorship is giving some opportunity to perform, giving feedback, giving opportunity to perform, giving feedback, and then doing some things to lift me up as well. Like, I haven't had very many formal mentorships, but I've mentored a lot of advisors over the years. And I think one of the best things I've done as a mentor is elevate them, lift them up, shine the light on them, bring attention to them. Because 1, it helps people find them, but 2, there's just something where if somebody you're looking up to or somebody you've gone to for help shines the light on you, that means a lot. I know it did for me, because I did have a few people do that for me earlier in my career. So as far as what I could have done as a mentee, I think as a mentee, it's showing up and listening. It's putting down my ego to realize that, okay, maybe I think I know something, but maybe I don't know everything, and being willing to listen, and then be willing to accept feedback as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And as a follow-up, you mentioned the Kinder program. You mentioned mentoring other folks coming up. How would you advise someone to go about getting that mentorship mentee relationship without needing to necessarily work for them or even have a professional arrangement, agreement, anything like that? I want to own my own firm, but that doesn't mean I'm not above criticism or help, mm-hmm. or it being advised myself. So how would I build those relationships to do that?
So I had many mentors from afar, and some of these people didn't even know they were a mentor to me, because with the social media now you can follow people and you can read their work and you can listen to their podcasts and you can learn from them that way. I also was tremendously lucky to end up meeting a lot of these people and becoming friends. And the way I did that, just at the time when Twitter was the good old days, you could actually interact with people and have good conversations and it wasn't a bunch of trash. That's how I know Colin. There was a time where you could meet people on there, have good engagement, and build friendships. And I'm going to name drop just because the name drop shows how this worked. Josh Brown at Ritholtz Wealth Management was one of those people that was a mentor of mine, and he knew he's a mentor. I made him my mentor, but he took that on. Carl Richards, Tim Maurer, all of these people that I read years ago, Morgan Housel, I know them now because of social media. And it started out as just supporting them as I was reading their content. And then when you support somebody for a long time and you see them at a conference, they recognize your name, and then magic happens. I still think there's that opportunity. You probably have a better opportunity of establishing those relationships in a friendly way on LinkedIn than you do on Twitter these days. So that would be one way. And then I think once you begin to form a relationship with somebody, just ask. They might not say yes, they might say no. Jason Wink, the founder of Altruist. If you don't know Altruist yet, you will. He is somebody that was a friend of mine, and when I think about what he's built, I really respected it. And I asked him, hey man, I've never paid for a coach before. Can I hire you to be my coach for a year? And he said no. He didn't have the time for it. But we set up monthly calls for 5 or 6 months, and he gave me some exercises, and he kind of mentored me because I asked. I think it'll be hard to do a cold DM to ask somebody to mentor them. But you might be surprised what happens if you ask to hop on a call, because I've done a lot of that, and a lot of the conversations I've had with advisors have started out with cold DMs. Hey, I've been reading your stuff. I really like complimenting me and building up my ego. And then, I'm at this stage of my career. Would you hop on a call? Again, not everybody's going to say yes, but you'll get a lot of people who will, because somebody did that for them. And anybody who's received that is going to pay it forward in the future.
Right. Appreciate that. And just a second that for anybody else on the call is a lot. I've attended the last 2 externships for the FPA, and so many of the speakers and folks that come on there as guests have been very receptive to meeting with you in one form or another. So very few no's. So
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Andrew. And Justin, I definitely have to back on that. Just sharing a screenshot I quick took. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah.
September 2018. Hey, Justin, didn't get a chance to chat one-on-one at the XYPN conference, but just wanted to thank you for sharing so much advice and congratulate you for all the hard work. Keep it up, bro. Like, ever since then, I mean, I never asked for permission, but always reaching out. I've been a follower of yours forever, huge fan, always supporting. And I mean, I'm just saying, just for anyone on here, like, I completely think of Justin as my mentor. Now, there is no signature agreement. There was no hour engagement, but I just have been reading all of his stuff, liking all of his stuff, like loving on him and supporting him. And like, it's just amazing how what goes around comes around. And I mean, just had to quick give a plug there because you've been an incredible mentor to me.
Well, thank you. And the cool thing is, like, when you're the mentor, the mentees don't understand this, but the mentor just gets just as much out of it as the mentee. Like Colin, you think you're getting the most out of the relationship, but I get a lot out of the relationship as well. Like your energy, your creativity, like that comes back to me as well. And that was one of the things. I'll share a real quick story. Going back to Josh Brown, he's way above me, right? And he's somebody I looked up to, and getting a chance to know him. And I'll never forget, I never missed a blog post. I read it, and like, I would find little ways to stay on his radar and try to do things to show how much I appreciated the attention he gave me. And I'm reading a blog one day that is titled something along like people who won't be denied or something like that. So I'm reading it, and he's talking about like mindset, all this stuff that I'm like, this is my lane. Yes. And I'm reading it. And then my name shows up in his blog post. And I had to do like a double take, and I reread it. And basically what he said was that there are people that he knows of who won't be denied that inspire him. And I was like, wow, like I had no idea. Like, I think I'm just taking from him all the time, and somehow I'm inspiring him. I never knew that. So as a mentee, there are ways you can overstep and ask too much, but also know as a mentee, you are doing something for that mentor. You may not know what it is, but you're feeding them just as much as they're feeding you.
That's so cool. Okay, getting back to your story here, you shared kind of where you started. You got approved in July 2015. You're getting the RIA off the ground. Maybe share a little bit more on the Bell Bar approach, and kind of maybe even if you want to get into the weeds a little bit for people who are interested of like fee models and stuff. You kind of shared subscription, which was totally radically new, by the way, of charging someone a subscription fee versus just the traditional AUM fee or a commission. So that was very, very radical at the very cutting edge of when that started. What was kind of your adventure bringing on clients, and then where did that kind of take you from there?
Yeah. So I launched the firm as a RIA mainly because I didn't do a lot of insurance-based business. I knew I didn't want to do commission investing. And the firms I looked at that were broker-dealer, I wouldn't have enough revenue to work with them. So I was kind of forced into it, which I was okay with. The subscription model, in case you're not familiar with it, it's just a monthly fee for the client. So I charge. You always will underprice yourself. So whatever you think you're going to charge, especially if it's subscription, if it's AUM, you probably won't overprice that. I charged $100 a month. And that gave you one meeting a year. unlimited access. We would do the financial plan in the beginning of the year, give you recommendations. You could call, and if there's a life-changing event, we would do another meeting. But the premise of it was, you're young, you probably don't need as much attention as my older clients. Same philosophy, executed in a more scalable way, so I can charge you less. And then when you get to more complicated, we'll flip over to the more expensive. Yes, you're going to pay me more, but we're going to meet twice a year. The portfolio is going to be different, and you will see the different levels of service. I charged $100 a month for the first year, $125 the second. I got it up to $150. And I still have clients I grandfathered in that it's ridiculous that I charge so little. But I always like to keep people where they're at because they bet on me and started with me from the very beginning. So that's what the subscription model was. Today, the way it sits, it's $250 for an individual. It's going to be $400 for a couple, plus 35 basis points if I manage investments. Those old accounts, I didn't charge an investment fee. It was wrapped up into it. I am going to go back to all those clients and say, look, we've worked together 8 years. I've never increased my fee. I'm going to start charging 35 basis points on any AUM I manage. If you want to take it to Betterment or wherever, they're going to charge you the same thing. But I want to equalize my business model across all of my clients, so everybody's in the same boat. I don't expect anybody to leave because of that. And if they do, as bad as it sounds, I'm okay with that, because from a business standpoint, that's not going to be revenue that I'll notice, as bad as that sounds. I hate to see the relationship go, but that frees up a seat for somebody who's willing to do what I want to do going forward. The wealth management model, which was the AUM model, I did, it's 1% up to $1 million. From 1 to 3, I charge 0.75. And from 3 above, it's 0.5. But what I don't do is a blended model. It is when you go from 99999 to $1 million, your fee drops down to 75 basis points on everything. So you actually start paying me less. The reason I did that was I was doing billing on a spreadsheet. So I didn't want to have to figure out blended fee schedules on a spreadsheet every month. So I just all right, we're going to make it simple. And I like it because it's easier for clients, because it's easy to calculate what you owe if you really wanted to figure it out. I've never had anybody balk over the fees. I've never had anybody question it in the 8 years I've been on my own. So I don't think clients think about the fees very much when you're providing them value. So wealth management, we meet twice a year. Portfolio construction is a little different. I have a tactical strategy I use for retirees to kind of help risk management type stuff, but nothing crazy. I use broad-based index ETFs. I use DFA, dimensional funds, to get that small cap value tilt, but keep it pretty simple. And I'm lucky I have a client base that appreciates working with me. They're very easy to work with. They're like family. A lot of them have knitted blankets and bought gifts for the boys, held them when they were babies. They've been to my house for cookouts. I have a very personal relationship with my clients, which is one of the reasons I haven't blown my firm up to start all over, because the advisor that I am today is not the advisor they started with in the past. And what I mean by that is my focus going forward is not traditional financial planning of retirement planning and what I've done for 20 years. My future going forward is life planning and even life coaching with finances brought into it. I'm not going to force my clients into that business model, but I'm not taking on any new clients into my subscription or into my wealth management. Everybody new will go into, I'm calling one Life Design and one Life Design Plus, which is incorporating spirituality and all these other things into a financial planning relationship. And that's what really excites me about the future. So those models I can dive into and share what that looks like, but that's part of the evolution. What I didn't mention in the middle of that was I started writing a blog in 2016. I think that's when I started All About Benjamins. And that, when I started writing, because I'm not aggressive, that was going to be the way I was going to grow my business. Back up real quick. Sorry. When I started my firm, I had 30 clients that had left the 403B company to the independent firm with me that came with me to start my own company. So when I started, by the end of the summer into the fall, I had 30 households and $7 million in assets. So not a big firm by any means, not enough to provide for my family, but it wasn't quite starting from zero. The way that I grew in the first couple of years, I went back to some of those relationships I had at the 403B company and said, hey, I know I was gone for a couple of years. Here's the reason why. I opened up my own firm. I can work with anybody that I want to. I always enjoyed working with you. If you want to have a conversation about picking back up, I would love to meet for coffee. And so I went from 7, 8 million to 16 million at the end of the second year. And a lot of that was going back and getting old clients I'd worked with, which was pretty cool, getting to reconnect those relationships. About 9 months in is when I started to see the subscription model begin to take place. And that started with friends. It's funny, when you start your own firm, people who know what you've always done all of a sudden think you're smarter than you were the day before and want to work with you because you own your own firm. So I had friends in my network that reached out. I have no problem working with friends. Not every advisor wants to do that, but I also am not going to solicit my friends. You know what I do. If you want to meet and talk, great, we'll do it. And that's where I started to grow the subscription model. So I wanted to give you that piece of information because I forgot about that. That's important about how did I get my first numbers. So I start writing all about your Benjamins because that's how I'm going to grow. I'm going to play the long game. I'm going to write to educate, write to have fun, let people get a feeling for who I am. And then when they need a financial advisor, I trusted they would reach out. And that took probably a good 9 months before I saw any traction as far as people reaching out to work with me. I got feedback and comments about the posts and things, but the way my business grew from that point on was either content or referrals. No other way. So when I started writing, I unlocked my inner creator. So I was not creative my whole life. We all have creativity in us. Some of us lose it when we get into school. I did. But when I started writing, that's where I got more creative. And so the writing turned into, well, if I can write a blog, I love Patrick O'Shaughnessy's Invest Like the Best. I would like to talk to cool people. I'm going to start a podcast. So then All About Your Benjamins, the podcast came about. And doing all of that content helped me build out my network and meet people. And because I was early in doing that, people reached out. How do you do it? What do you learn? So I talked to people about that. But that helped me grow my business. And then from there on, then it was video. And then I started loving video. And there's a period of time, if you look at my content and my social media, I was all over the place. I was trying to work with entrepreneurs and launched a new blog and podcast for that. I went and worked at a startup building in the crypto space. I was doing all these things. And what I realized was I'm a type of person who has to follow my passions. And if I have an interest, I have to explore. I have to know, what is it like to be that type of person? Thankfully, my clients are okay with me doing that. As long as I take care of them, they don't care what else I do. And I've always kept them up to date with what's going on. So I tried all these different things. I started a community for financial advisors with Taylor Schulte in 2019 called the AGC. That's part of the journey as well. That community is a byproduct of Taylor and I having pick your brain sessions and realizing, oh, there's a need for community. Let's create this place. And all these advisors come together and share best practices and things. So another thing that's out there, bringing this story to an end, because it leads me to where I'm at today, through all of that, I ended up burning out is a bit dramatic, but having a realization that I was doing too much. And I mentioned Jason Wank being a mentor. He had me do an exercise where I planned out my ideal day. And I was doing a reflection and realized that if I took away the startup that I was in, I had my ideal day. I had the time to get back to taking care of myself, working out, eating good. I had time to be creative. I had time to take care of my family and my clients and not be overwhelmed. And once I realized that I had that ideal day, it was easy. Like, if that's what I really want and it's here, how can I not live it? And when I started to make those changes, that's when magically, meditation started to take hold, and I got good at that practice. I started to get more spiritual and reflecting there, and I found an alignment of spirit, mind, and body. And I think everybody can find this alignment in your own way. And when I found that alignment, and you'll know when you find that alignment because you'll feel it. Like, I can't tell you how you know, but you'll know. When I found that alignment, it was a new level of happiness. It was a new level of productivity. And all of these magical things just started happening. And I had a realization that if everybody experienced what I was experiencing, that would help out their financial planning. And then that's when I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be known for bringing spirituality and bigger picture to financial planning. I don't want to do the retirement planning stuff I've done in the past. Happy to keep doing it for my existing clients. But going forward, I want to incorporate the alignment of spirit, mind, and body, and I want to help people find and live their authentic life. Part of the way that I'm going to do that is through writing and podcasting and talking about it and helping people find their way. And then once they find their way, then I'll bring the numbers to it. So that is what I am all about now. And I have done a personal brand rebrand. You go to my personal website now. It talks about spirit, mind, body, money, the authentic life. I have a daily note that I write about that has nothing to do with money. Even though I talk about the alignment of spirit, mind, body, and money, there's very little money on it. There's a podcast that goes with it. Like, I am trying to become the guy when it comes to that type of planning. And I want to inspire advisors to think about that with their practices as well. So going forward, life design is really just doing a life plan for somebody and then farming out the financial planning. So the life plan is basically helping them figure out what they really want out of life using the Kinder Evoke process. So I'll give you some homework to do. EVOKE, they stand for, it's an acronym, but going through the Evoke process and helping people figure out what is that life that they really want. And where I want to develop the skill set is I want to be one of the best people to help you find your own answers. One of the coolest things about that process that I learned was that in the life planning world, the advisor has no responsibility to provide any answers. The advisor's job is to help the client find out their own answers by more so being a guide, asking questions, giving space, and advising and kind of helping them. And to me, that's really exciting. So the end of that relationship is you've got your life plan, and if part of the obstacles you have to overcome is you need a financial plan, I have 155 advisors in a community that I know really well that do a really good job. I will make that introduction and they will become your advisor for the financial side. You need a life plan, come back to me, let's rehash it, and then go back to your financial advisor. The other relationship I have is called Life Design Plus, which is basically doing all of that, but with a monthly coaching meeting. I hate the term life coach because it's so watered down and there's all these life coaches on social media, but ultimately it's what it is. I want those meetings to be building upon the previous month and talking about what is going on in your life. Colin, you want to maybe sell your firm and go do something else. Like, let's talk through that and just be that, almost like a mentor, be that advocate, be there to listen, and then be there to give advice and help you figure things out. And then when the time comes where we need to talk about numbers, I put my financial advisor hat on and we dive into Right Capital and we do that. But I think that 80% of that relationship is going to be the life planning and the coaching, and the 20% will be the numbers. And I could do 20% numbers. I'm cool with that. I want to do all of the others. I don't know if you guys know who Rick Rubin is, but he has a book that's out called The Creative Act. He's a music producer. He's been all over social media this last year because of his book. Bigger guy, white hair, white beard, but he's one of the most famous music producers who has worked with everybody. He's found the Beastie Boys. He's worked with anybody, you name it. People go to Rick Rubin not because he was a producer that works the drum kits and everything, because he doesn't do that at all. He basically helps you find the hit songs inside of you and then makes minor suggestions that help take it to the next level. He's almost kind of like I won't say like a Buddha, but like he kind of has this Buddha vibe in the music world. My goal is to be like the Rick Rubin in personal finance. I want to just be that guy that if you're stuck or you feel like you have a greater calling, but you don't know how to get there, you know that I'm going to be the person that's going to be able to help you find that answer, and then the rest goes with it. So that is what I am excited about doing, is moving away from traditional planning and moving more towards this life planning and coaching side of things. But what will differentiate me from other coaches out there is I can actually talk about money. And at the end of the day, every coaching relationship about life coaching, there's going to be a financial component to it. You can't escape it. And I'll share one other belief I have, and then I'll shut up, about spirit, mind, and body. My podcast today was about why I don't talk about money as a financial advisor. I believe that when you find alignment of spirit, mind, and body, and you find the authentic version of yourself and you're living your authentic life, then money becomes a lot easier to manage, because now you know who you are and you know how to align your money. And I think a lot of people's financial struggles come from a lack of identity, in the sense that they don't know who they really are. And if you don't know who we really are, we seek approval and validation from others. And how do we do that? We buy certain clothes. We try to impress people who aren't even paying attention to us. So now we're overspending, looking for validation and happiness from people who aren't even paying attention to us. Or retail therapy. I'm not happy. Let me go buy this purse. Let me go buy these Jordans because they'll make me feel better. Momentarily feels better, and then you don't. And now you spent this money. Well, if you're happy with who you are, and I know this sounds woo-woo, but I genuinely believe this will help a lot of people financially. When you know who you are and you're happy with you, the outside approval doesn't matter. And now you can just allocate the dollars to the things that matter the most to you, which will probably straighten out a lot of your financial problems. And then the final thing is, I think when you're in your authentic life, you are doing the things that you are best at. You're following your passions. You're doing the thing that you were created to do that you can do better than anybody else. You're the Michael Jordan of whatever it is that you're doing. That's going to probably allow you to make more money. So if you need to make more money, doing the thing that you can do better than anybody else is a good way to do that. Or on the flip side, when you find your authentic version of yourself and you realize you don't need all these things you thought you needed, you might actually be able to live a happy life with less money. And when you define your own definition of success and you own that definition of success, what the rest of the world tells you you're supposed to do doesn't matter. It's not necessarily easy to live. You know, the Jordan reference is me. I have a closet full of Jordans, which is stupid. So I know this to be true because I've experienced it. And I've gone through these experiences, and I just want to help people, whether that is one-on-one or through my content, realize this for themselves in their own way as soon as possible. And I'll share one final goal of mine. It's not something that I'm going to put on anything for marketing. I probably won't talk about it a lot, but I have a goal to change 1,000 lives through life planning one-on-one, meaning it's going to be life design or life design plus, changing 1,000 lives. Now, a family could be 4 or 5 lives because it's 4 or 5 individuals. It's not families, but it's not. I did the math. At a reasonable rate, that'll take me 20 years to change 1,000 lives. And the reason I chose that was I wanted to say 100, but it was too easy. And I wanted a number that whenever it did come up, people would realize he's serious about this. Like, this really is his calling. This is his thing. This is his authentic life. And I wanted a number that when I accomplish that 1,000, I'm going to look back and be like, I never thought I could do it, but I did it. And then if I think about the impact of that, like those 1,000 lives and how many lives did those change? And then what does my content do? Like, I really want to have that big impact in my life. And I think that our profession is one of the best professions for impacting people's lives. You're going to get to know things about your clients that sometimes their spouses don't know first. You're going to be the second phone call, unfortunately, when someone passes away. Like, we are in a very unique position as financial advisors, or life planners, as I call myself now, to help people. Doctors probably are the next one. Like, they probably compete with us, but I don't know of any other profession that could have that big of an impact on someone else's life. It's a big responsibility if you really think about it, but it's really, really cool. Like, I think about what I might be able to do through life planning, but I can look back at what I've done through regular financial planning and the changes in lives that I've made. To give you a final story, is one of my teachers from high school is one of my clients. The AGC wrote a book called More Than Money last year. And in the beginning of it, I talk about her. Miss Fisher's her name, and she said I could use her name. She was best teacher I ever had, phenomenal teacher, became a client, and she inherited some money. And one day I could tell that she was just burned out on teaching. She was tired of it. She wasn't happy. It was impacting her health. And I said, look, Fish, if you're ready to have the conversation, the inheritance that you have allows you to not have to work anymore. I said, if you want to crunch the numbers and you really want to see it, let's do it. So we did. And she ended up retiring. And one of the coolest things I've had said to me was, she told me when we finalized everything and she left, she hugged me and thanked me for giving her back 10 years of her life. She thought she had to retire at 65 because that's what her dad told her. And that's what society told her. And that's what she was planning on doing. She was planning on gutting it out for 10 years of not enjoying what she was doing, waking up every day, dreading what it was, impacting her health, and probably would die at a younger age. And because of my relationship with her, my ability to see that she wasn't happy because she didn't tell me that, and running some numbers, I was able to give her 10 years back of her life. Phenomenal. No other profession gets to do it. And I think that's really, really cool. So the fact that you're either already in it or you're coming into it, it's a great profession and it's not going anywhere. And it's those soft skills, I think, make it better than any other profession out there.
Wow.
All right, I'll pause.
That is amazing. Justin, love your story. Every time you speak, I want to run through a wall. I want to be really respectful of your time here, but we do want to have some type of like action, some type of takeaway that we could have, multiple takeaways. But kind of curious if either a college student listening, trying to learn more, advisor like myself, trying to have deeper, more meaningful conversations. Where do you kind of get started? Like you mentioned the evoke process with George Kinder. Do you kind of recommend like diving into the deep end and going down that path? Or is there kind of a lighter version that we can just have more meaningful conversations starting tomorrow with our clients? Where do you kind of maybe recommend where we can take our first baby step moving forward to get people inspired to live their authentic life?
I've got some more time. So I just was texting with my oldest. He's at his school for the girls' game. So I know some of you may need to go, but I can hang out a little bit longer. So I have more time not to rush it. But I do want to answer that in case anybody has to drop. So what I would, I mean, I genuinely would go back, and this has nothing to do with the profession. I would go back and ask yourself, what are the things that you value the most? What is it about this profession that excites you? And just really make sure you have an understanding of why you want to come into the profession or why you're in the profession. And ask why multiple times, because the first answer to why rarely is the true answer. It's usually 3 or 4 layers deep. But the more you understand what motivates you and what you're called to do, the better it's going to help you find your way through the profession. As far as having deeper conversations with clients, I do think that I would go down the rabbit hole of George Kinder. He's on podcast. I have an old episode with him on All About Your Benjamins. I don't know how good it is because at the time I didn't really appreciate it, but I would listen to George on podcast. He has a bunch of books out. They'll help you with your own relationship with money, but also it teaches you some questions. So like Kinder is very famous for having 3 questions that are part of the process. They all center around mortality. The first one is basically you have endless money. You have a limited amount of time. What do you do? The second one is you have a shorter amount of time. What do you do? And then the final one is time is up. What did you not get to do? And the third one is really the question we care about, because whatever you didn't get to do up to this point in your life should be the focus of your life going forward. If that is your regret, if you will, if you didn't do this thing by today, then that better be the thing you start focusing on and turning your attention to going forward. So I would read his books. I would listen to his podcast. I would check out also Brendan Fraser's podcast, The Human Side of Money.
Mm-hmm.
His is really, really good. He has a lot of people that talk about this type of planning and this type of relationship with clients. The more you can hear about it, the more you can immerse yourself in it, I think the better. And then the final thing is just start trying to be a better listener, be a better question asker. I don't know how I would say that the right way. Ask better questions just in your normal day-to-day with people. Practice those soft skills, because if you can be present with somebody and listen to them and give them your all, and you're just having coffee, then you're going to be able to do that with a client, and it's going to make the relationship really, really strong. So I just think it's practice it in real life. So that way, when you're with a client, it's second nature. I don't think you all will have a problem with that. Stereotypically, it's the older dudes that have problems with being, more soft, because they're so rigid, and men don't cry and they don't have feelings, and this is all about money and business. I feel like the younger generation and women tend to be a little bit more empathetic. Tap into your empathy and use that just day to day, and that will help you. I wish I had some magic bullet to say like do this thing, but I think it wouldn't even work for you anyways. Like all of these calls that Colin sets up and the talks you're going to listen to and the podcast, all of that advice comes from one person's experience. No 2 experiences are the same. So I guess another thing I would tell you to do is consume as much content about this profession as you can, and start taking away from each one of those conversations what aligns with you. And ultimately what you do is you shape your views, you shape your approach to being a planner by borrowing from other people, rather than you trying to be somebody else. Take a little bit from this, take a little bit from that. That aligns with you. And then now you have your own brand and your own way being an advisor. And then I do think that, not everybody has to create content, but if you enjoy creating content, it's a great way to put yourself out there. It makes you better at your craft. One of the reasons I wanted to create content above and beyond business was it was going to make me research whatever it was I was going to write. The last thing I wanted to do was tell you that the 401k limits were 19.5 when they'd been bumped up to 21.5. I didn't want to have wrong information. So you're doing research to make sure what you're putting out there is accurate. But on top of that, you look at Colin and where he's gone with his career. Creating content can help you find your tribe of people who want to work with you. If it's in you, it's a really good thing to do. And then I guess one other thing would be, don't conform to what people say you're supposed to do. Thinking of content, I believe in creating content. You don't have to create content. If you are comfortable cold calling, if you're comfortable going to Ed Jones, knocking on 100 doors a day, if that's you, then do it. Own it. Because if you're, what I learned at that other firm, when you try to force yourself into something that is not authentically you, it won't be successful because you're not being you, and there's an energy that you put off. And when you are you, that energy comes across and people can tell it. When you're not you, they can also tell it. And they may not be able to pinpoint it, but there's going to be a little red flag. If something just doesn't feel right with this person, it's because you're forcing yourself to be something that you're not. And on top of that, you won't be happy. So embrace who you are, going back to knowing who you are, and try to structure your career to allow you to be you as much as possible. And there's plenty of firms, I think, that can support you for who you are and will value you for what you bring as a unique individual, more so than there were when I first started.
Such great advice. And I know I can sense that even in myself, in my practice every day. You really just can't fake confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you being you. And if you're just reading from a script or doing exactly what someone told you to do, it's not going to come off as your own self. And I mean, I just remember reading scripts of like asking data gathering questionnaires, and like I was so scared to ask people, what is your income? Because I'm just like going down the list of questions. But now that I'm into my business and I'm meeting with someone, I'm like, wait, why do you have credit card debt? Like, what happened? Like, did this slowly pile up over time? You got a little bit of a spending problem. It's okay. Or was it like a major medical expense that just happened one time? Like, and just really diving in and caring and just being genuine. Completely agree and recommend anyone listening here, try to look inward. We do have a couple good questions here. Stephen, thanks for being patient. Feel free to jump on and ask.
I appreciate it. Everything for the past 15, 20 minutes has been so inspiring. So thank you guys so much. But my question revolves around your clients. Justin, you talk a lot about finding yourself and the spirituality, and I think that's something that a lot of the younger generation just resonates with these days. And so I was wondering how, like, first, like what your typical client does look like, but furthermore, how you push them to be themselves, because you're talking about where you hang your hat, and that is clearly where you hang yours. And so I'm wondering what kind of guiding questions you might ask your clients, and what makes them, because I'm hearing you talk, I'm like, I would love that my money managed by this guy. You know what I mean? So how do you get your clients to do that?
I don't force them. So that's a great question because it lends to kind of why I do content and why I believe in it. So my clients today did not come to me for the spirit, mind, body guy. And I don't want to force that on them. So they know what I'm about because I'm an open book. I write them a weekly email every week. And in the weekly email, I include all of my daily notes that I write about that stuff. So they know what I'm about. And they know that if they ever want to bring that to the conversation, I'm all game for it. And they don't even have to pay me more like the new clients would. They get it because they've been with me forever. So I just let them bring it to the table when they're ready. And it's been really cool because a lot of them have. I've had some really cool spiritual conversations that I never would have imagined having just because they know that I'm open to it. So I am not forcing it on them. I'm letting them bring it to the table whenever they are. I'll ask some of the deeper questions, and I'll intertwine some of the evoke pauses and things to help them kind of find their way, but it's not going to be forced on them. And they know that. For the new clients, I think that my writing is going to attract the people who want that in their financial advisor. So I'm writing about the law of attraction. I'm writing about manifestation. I'm writing about mindset. Like some people, they're going to be like, I don't want my money guy talking about that. Cool. I'm not that dude, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But there are going to be people that resonates with them, and they're like, I want my advisor who understands that I'm manifesting this business 5 years out and that my mind is going to help bring it along with my actions. I want my advisor, because the reality of it is that person going to a traditional advisor, they're not going to mesh, because what the traditional advisor is going to recommend is not going to align with who they are. So for me, it's the content, which is why I'm writing a daily note, and I have a weekly email that summarizes everything and has more content in it. I have a weekly podcast that's all about pursuing your authentic life and all about this. And I'm about a year in of consistently creating content on this topic, and I'm starting to see people reach out and mention it. I'm getting feedback from peers about, oh, I see what you're doing. We need somebody to come talk about that subject matter. So the work I've been putting in is paying off. I expect that going forward, anybody who reaches out to work with me already knows they want to work with me because they know me. They know everything about me. They know I have tattoos. They know I like rap music. They know I'm spiritual. They know all of this stuff. And the reason they're calling me is because they like it. So that's why I think content is so valuable, especially when you have something unique and different to say. And then the final thing is with my existing clients, and I will still do I'm leading by example. Like everything that I talk about doing, I'm doing myself. Some of the aspirational things I'm doing to help build this is me following my passion. Like I'm doing all of the things I'm telling everybody else to do. So not only am I helping you do it, I'm doing it myself, and you get to watch me do it. So I think leading by example, no matter what your message is a great way to help your clients.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any feelings of maybe nervousness or I don't know, worry towards the reaction of any existing clients when you started gearing your work towards this spiritual side? Any comments on that?
I would be lying to say if I didn't wonder if anybody would have any comments, but I didn't worry about it only because most of my clients, and the ones who probably would be bothered by it in some respects, I've been working with for 14, 15 years. And maybe it's a little bit of ego. I don't think that I could say anything in that realm that would make them want to leave me in the relationship. And also, my approach to all of this is like, I don't care what your spiritual practice is, just have a connection to a higher power, whether that's God or the universe or whatever you believe in. It's spirituality. Connect to it. I don't care how. So I'm not in there bashing any religion. I try to write so it's open-ended where you can plug yourself in with whatever your belief system is. You don't have to meditate. It works for me, but it doesn't work for everybody. So I think trying to keep it a little bit broader and open and welcoming and inclusive allows people to not be offended by it. So I think that's another way. But I haven't had anybody have any problems with it. And I've actually had some people surprise me with how much they have taken to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin.
Yep.
I had a question earlier, Justin. I need to make sure I ask. How did you have you explored any other programs such as like the Golden Gate program versus Kinder or any other? I don't know if you can compare and contrast. Obviously, you ended up going with Kinder.
Yeah, I have not. I honestly haven't even heard of that other one. So I have not. I got introduced to Kinder years ago by Scott Frank, which if you haven't had Scott Frank in one of these, you should try to get Scott on. He's awesome.
That's actually such a good point. Yeah, or a good recommendation.
He's an advisor out in California. He's been doing Kinder for a long time. So he planted the seed years ago. And I started reading it, but for me, and this is the way things have been lining up in my life right now, I did Kinder exactly when I was supposed to. And I kid you not that it was a life-changing event that I had the week in December when I went through the class. There's something about that process that resonates with me that I'm supposed to be doing. So it called me to it. So I haven't explored anything else. I don't think you have to go get, like, when I went through the process, I didn't really care about getting the RLP designation. My plan was I was just going to do a VOC to go through the life planning process to understand it better and then go do my own version. But when I did it, I life planned another advisor. She's in Germany and she life planned me. When I experienced it and when I saw it work, I was like, oh, this is like, no, I'm all in. I signed up for the mentorship and everything. So for me, it was the right one. But I think you should explore them all. I would Google those, the Google life planning, Google behavior planning, and see what all's out there and see what resonates with you. Because at the end of the day, there's not one right way. Kinder is the right way for me, but there might be a better way that's better for you.
I can't let you get out of here with at least double clicking on having a life-changing experience. I don't mean to ask you to get too vulnerable on here, but is there anything that you could expand on, like just having maybe that realization, or what kind of brought that upon? Or maybe, obviously you mentioned that you did the business actually come out of that? Like, did you completely start Design Works after that? After that meeting?
I had Life Design Plus already, the coaching model already in there. The
Yeah.
life-changing component of Kinder for me was it gave me a new slate to start from 20 years into my career. I knew I couldn't do 20 more years of traditional planning. Like, I just didn't enjoy it, which is why I was moving in that direction. When I went through the process, I knew this is how I'm going to work. And then when I realized that this would allow me to do even less of the financial side, which don't let that discourage you from the financial side. Like, I've done it for 20 years. I enjoy it. I just have grown and evolved. So I'm leaving the door open for one of you to come in and do the planning that I wanted to do. It was life-changing because it gave me a new outlook. And it also gave me a greater sense of purpose and impact that I can have. And I genuinely believe I have gifts that align with the Kinder method that will allow me to be really, really good at this. So that was the life-changing moment. It wasn't anything personally. It was just like, now, you've known me, Colin. I've been wandering, trying to find my lane. And I've tried a bunch and figured it out. I have found my lane. And for me, that's really, really exciting, because now I can do all of the stuff that I love and have it contained on one subject matter, which is going to allow me to have a greater impact rather than being all over the place and being, how's that guy do all this stuff? What's he even do? Like, it's given me greater focus. So that was the life-changing part of it. And then it just gave me the idea of, well, let me do this other offering it is more transactional, but there are going to be people who are do-it-yourselfers, or maybe don't need somebody to manage their finances, but really need somebody to help them figure out and build a life plan. So that was the life-changing part.
Awesome.
I do have to go in a minute. I just got a text that the game's almost over, so I got to bounce in a minute.
Okay. Time for maybe one or two quick ones.
Yeah.
Okay, Alex, we have a question from you, and then Stephanie.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. I just wanted to know, like, whether it was when you were building, like, what it sounded like you were doing a lot at one time. Like, what was a day looking like for you at that point, or like, what's a day look like today? Whether it's with a client or just building content, researching stuff like.
So back in the day when I was doing too much, no 2 days were the same. I was running all over the place. And that was part of the realizing I was doing too much, was that I was like taking meetings for the startup while I was in the car to get home. I had an AirPod in my ear at dinner, which I can't believe I ever did. I lied to myself and said, this is just momentary because it's such a great opportunity. And I realized I was just doing way too much. So the day was chaotic. But one thing that period helped me do was kind of time block. So the morning was dedicated to my planning clients. The startup was in California, so I got to then switch to West Coast hours in the afternoon, and that's how I managed both. Today, I only have client meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11:30, 1, and 3 o'clock. Because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I go to yoga at 9:30. I'm not missing that. So then I can get showered and get in and then meet with my clients. So I have put my life on the calendar first, and then plug in my business around it. I don't have dedicated times to create, except for I write my daily note every morning. I get up, I do my morning routine. I start to write it. My youngest gets up. I get him on the bus with my wife. I finish the daily note. That's the only dedicated time I have to create. The rest of it is I just find time and I create when I feel inspired to create. I am trying to get more of a regular schedule for the podcast since it's a weekly schedule now, but I don't block that. So I have client times blocked in. I have no more than 2 meetings a day in those days of the week, and my business allows me to space that out over time. But it took me a long time.
So
it took me a long time to get dedicated to time blocking. I actually wrote about that today because that discipline I was trying to establish had no purpose behind it. Today, all of my time blocking has purpose because there's so many important things I want to do that mean so much to me that I've got to do this. So I'm getting up at 5:30 to do these things and get this done. I'm going to yoga at 9:30 because I know I need that. And that allowed me to block off the days.
So then what does support staff look like for you right now?
My director of operations left in October. So it is me, and then my dad is my chief people officer. He retired a couple years ago. So my dad helps with scheduling. He sends out birthday cards. I just basically pay him because it's my dad and he needs some retirement help. But he looks for ways to help out. He earns his salary. But it's just me. So I've actually enjoyed getting back in the business. I had my director of operations for 5 years. And I'm enjoying doing all of the back and forth emails. I feel like I know what's going on in the lives of my clients better. And that's what I was used to for most of my career. So my director of operations was awesome. I just knew I wasn't going to grow at the rate that I needed to keep her. And she had a good opportunity, and I wanted her to do what's best for her. And I think she was getting bored with her role at my firm since we're not growing actively like we used to. But there's enough technology, again, time blocking. I've got administrative time on my day. I've got compliance time during the week just to get those things done. But it's not too bad. And I guess also because I'm not growing, there's not a lot of new paperwork to be doing. The follow-up stuff in the day-to-day that's in maintenance mode isn't the same as if you're in growth mode.
Awesome. Stephanie, are you still hanging?
Yeah. Hey, Justin, excited to have you here and then at Student Success Summit next month. Appreciate the time. I'm a huge fan of life planning. I asked the kinder questions in my discovery meeting, if something happened to you, what would you do different? But are you able to, share any specific examples, maybe through the training or so far, like of actual life planning? I know it might sound kind of elementary, but
I'll give you one that it's not technically a life plan, but I'm using the principles with a client of mine. So he's a friend of mine from high school, and he's a hospital exec that doesn't want to be in the system anymore. And he wants to get into the health tech space, and he's younger. He has these connections. So we just have been going through, he knows what he wants to do, and we've been going through the obstacles. So we had a call this week. So the O in evoke is obstacles. And basically you address the obstacles that prevent you from living the life that you want. And the way you work through them is, well, what can you do about it? How can you do it? When are you going to do it? And who do you need to help with it? And when you think about whatever's standing between you and your goal in that framework, most obstacles really aren't that big. And you start setting these little short-term, okay, I'm going to do this by this day. So hang on one sec, my wife is calling me.
We kept you too long.
No, you're good. I think she's going to say she can pick him up from the game because she had to pick up. We had my middle was at basketball practice. My oldest stayed after for the girls' game. Tonight's our night to carpool his friends from practice. So I'm getting ready to go get him. So we should be good. So going through those obstacles to help him figure out how do I make this thing happen. So all it was he had to come up with a business model to present to these companies that he's consulting to get them to pay him. And if he can get 4 out of these 6 contracts, it replaces his income. And now he no longer needs to be at the hospital system anymore. So it's not the full planning process, but the way we would have got there was, man, I hate where I'm at. I don't know what I want to do. Then we go through the exercises of asking him what's most important and kind of create this vision for him and then come up with the obstacles and go through it. So it's basically taking somebody from making, $400,000, $500,000 a year from a salary to going out on his own with no guaranteed income, but being able to leverage his expertise and connections to build his own business, to do what excites him and provide for his family and have more control over his life. So I think that's what a lot of life planning is. It takes somebody from living somebody else's life, the life that they were told they're supposed to live, to make their way to the life that they really want to live. And how do you get there? And sometimes they know what that life looks like, or sometimes the process is they just know they're not happy, and it's helping them figure out what would make them happy. And then you start to construct, what does that life look like? And then you can reverse engineer the finance side of things.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Justin, thank you so much. We don't want to get you in too much trouble.
Oh, you're good.
For going overtime with us. This has been absolutely amazing. So thank you. Thank you so much. And if you want to hear more from Justin, he's going to be doing another session with me next month at the Student Success Summit. So huge plugs for that. We're going to share the links I think there's like over 150 students registered already. And usually the big registration wave is like the month prior. So I am expecting we're going to hit some new all-time highs with registration this year. So really, really excited. And Justin, can't thank you enough. This has been amazing.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for staying long. I appreciate it. And one of these days, Colin, you and I are going to get the kickoff spot, the big spot that Josh Brown always gets. That's going to be our spot one day.
Hey, there we go. We can keep, hey, we'll just keep climbing our way up, right?
Yep.